Namaste and welcome to the Vedanta Society of Greater Houston and our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We'll begin with a chant as always. Om Sarva Jiva Papanashakaranam Bhaveshwaram Swikritang cha garbhavasa deha pashamidrisham Yapitam swalilaya cha yena divya jivanam Yapitam swalilaya cha yena divya jivanam Tannamami Deva Deva Ramakrishna Mishwaram Om Shri Vivekanandari Satchishya Supujitaya Shri Sharada Devya Virata Sevitaya Shri Ramakrishna Paramahamsaya Avatara Varishtaya Chate Namaha. Om Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam Kaviviriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Shrimaratatam Bhuvi Grinanti Ye Bhurida Jana. So this is the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class, and this, unlike our usual class, is pre-recorded because this Thursday I have another engagement, a conference online conference that I have to attend, and so I am recording before the time and posting to YouTube. So it will be the class as usual, only I won't be around to answer questions if you have any questions. So we are on April 8th, 1883, and in the English version we are on page 208 in the Gospel, the unabridged edition of the Gospel. Any Gospel that has the same pagination as the New York edition. So here Sri Ramakrishna is in the midst of a conversation, but we don't need to go back to get context because it's a good starting place, which is why I stopped here last time. So Sri Ramakrishna, this was a Sunday, and so a number of devotees had come because the devotees, working people, they had Sundays off, it being the British Raj with Western customs, especially in the workplace, prevalent. So Sri Ramakrishna says to the devotees who are gathered, "Man reaps the harvest of his own past actions. Hence you read in the song, 'O Mother, I have no one else to blame. Alas, I sink in the well these very hands have dug.'" So now those are the first two lines of a song Sri Ramakrishna had sung earlier the same time, the same day, and recorded here in the Gospel earlier in the same section. That, "O Mother, I have no one else to blame. Alas, I sink in the well these very hands have dug." So that is that the law of karma says that I am alone responsible for my circumstances. So there's no use blaming other people. There's no use complaining about what this person did to me, what that person did to me. That I had, my parents were not good to me, my teachers were not good to me, or whatever. Yes, you may be right, and that doesn't forgive them because they will have their own karma. But You had those circumstances, and you have your present circumstances because of your own karma. And so we should always, as Swami Vivekananda says, as Vedantins, we should always take the subjective view. What is it that I have done which has contributed to these circumstances I am facing now? Because I can't fix anything else. I can't fix other people. I can't fix the world. Now, some people complain that, well, that sounds like it's just supports the status quo. There would never be any greater change in the world if everybody thought like that. Well, yes, it doesn't mean that we don't have social responsibility and don't have responsibility to other people. Yes, we do. But that is part of our karma. And that also is contributing to the circumstances that I will face in the future. So yes, karma is not my karma is not like a billiard ball, which is completely isolated from everything else around me. No, our webs of karma are interlocked and interpenetrating and interdependent and affecting each other. But the part of my experience that I can fix is my contribution. And that's all that I can fix. I can suggest to other people. I can try to explain to other people if I think that they need explanation, if they're doing something wrong, if they need guidance or something. But I can't make them do what I want them to do. I can't do it. That's not within my power. And I don't need to. Because what I can do is I can correct my contribution to my experience. Again, my experience comes, the constellation of experiences I have come because of the sum total of my past karma. And so I can correct the actions which have led to bad experiences now, and thus pave the way for better experience in the future. So I'm sinking in the well that these very hands have dug. We all want to blame other people. We all want to blame other people for our circumstances. But there's no use in that. What good does it do? We think that it excuses us. It may feel that way, but no, it does us no good. It doesn't change the circumstances. And so we have to work on our part of the contribution. So Sri Ramakrishna says that man reaps the harvest of his own past actions, and hence you read in the song what I just read. And he continues, I and mine, this is ignorance. By discriminating, you will realize that what you call I is really nothing but the Atman, the self. Reason it out. Are you the body or flesh or something else? At the end, you will know that you are none of these. You are free from attributes. Then you will realize that you have never been the doer of action, that you have been free from virtue and faults alike, that you are beyond righteousness and unrighteousness. So that's a beautiful statement. So those who think that Swami Vivekananda, by teaching the path of knowledge in the West, he was going against Sri Ramakrishna, who taught the path of devotion. Well, here Sri Ramakrishna is teaching the path of knowledge. So yes, Sri Ramakrishna often clothed his words in terms of devotion because of the audience and the place where he was. But all through the gospel, if you know what the path of knowledge is and the path of devotion is, you'll see the path of knowledge woven through his teachings everywhere. And here it's quite explicit. So I and mine, that is ignorance. I am the doer, I am the experiencer, and mine. These are my things. This is my body, this is my book, this is my table, this is my room, this is my house, this is my car, this is my bank account, etc. That is ignorance. I and mine. Ignorance. What's the use of a statement like this? A simple statement like this shows us in such few words the essence of spiritual life. So yes, the essence of spiritual life can be expressed in other ways, but this is one way of expressing the whole essence of spiritual life. It lies in going beyond I and mine. That's all that spiritual life is. Of course, going beyond I and mine means realizing reality. It's not just I and mine disappear and there's nothing. No. But that is the essence of spiritual practice. That is ignorance, as he says. That is ignorance. So he says that by discriminating, you will realize that what I means is not this body and mind. Does I refer to a piece of flesh? No. So what does he mean? That the I doesn't refer to this body? That the I, what you call I, is really nothing but the Atman. So if you discriminate, if you practice this process of thought, you see that the body is an object of my perception. I see the body, I'm aware of the body, and if I close my eyes and am not seeing anything, I feel the body. So whatever, in the waking state, the body is always there as the object of my perception. I perceive the body, and so I can't be the body. If I can look at this book and see it as an object, so I'm not the book. The book is here. I can see this table. It's not me. Exactly the same is true of the body. I can perceive the body. That's not me. And so if I go on with that and I take it further and see, well, what about the mind? I must be the mind. No, but I can see my thoughts. And the deeper my mind goes, the more profound my mind goes, I begin to see more and more of the mind and see that the whole mind and all of its contents are objects also. It's not me. I am the one who looks at the mind. I am the one who sees my thoughts rising. I am the one who sees perceptions, who sees memories, who sees images, who sees emotions arising in the mind. So I'm not the mind. I'm not the body. Gradually I come to this process of not this, neti neti atma. I come to the point where I see that I must be the seer of all things, the unseen seer. The eye sees everything but can't see itself. And the self, the consciousness which I am, sees everything but can't be seen. But it can be known not as an object, but by identity, because it is self-luminous. It illuminates itself, again, not as an object, but as reality itself. So I can realize myself, but I can never see myself as an object. So in this process, anything that I can objectify, that's not me. And so I come, as Sri Ramakrishna says, that what you call I is really nothing but the Atman. Reason it out, he says. Are you the body or the flesh or something else? At the end you will know that you are none of these. You are free from attributes, because any attribute is something which I can perceive. An attribute, a quality, can be perceived. And so I'm not that. I'm the perceiver of the attribute. So I have no attributes. I'm beyond attributes. Then you will realize that you have never been the doer of any action. I think now that I'm the doer of all actions because I identify with the body and the mind. And the ego tells me that I'm going to speak, I'm going to give a class, I'm going to turn the page of the book, I'm going to walk outside, I'm going to drink some water, I'm going to look at the time, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But that's all ignorance. Consciousness, that which I am, the pure awareness which I am, the Atman which I am, is illuminating all of that, but is not that. I see this body walking. I say I'm going to walk, and the body gets up and walks, and I think I am doing it because I said I'm walking. No, I didn't even say. As I've said in other classes, I don't even know how I talk. You don't know how you talk. No one knows how they do it. Even if you study physiology, anatomy and physiology and so on, you see the mechanisms through which talking happens. But the actual experience of talking, you have no idea how you do it. You just start talking. It just happens. So actually, you are not doing it. Nature, Prakriti is doing it. You are the silent witness. And so you don't do anything. That's the intent of what Sri Ramakrishna is saying here. You will realize that you have never been the doer of any action. You have never been the doer of any action. It's not that you stop being the doer. You have never been the doer of any action. That you have been free from virtue and faults alike. Oh, I did such a bad thing. I'm such a bad person. I always make this mistake. I'm so stupid. I'm so poor at this. Or I'm so good at this. Oh, I'm such a good person. I helped some old lady cross the street. I'm so good. I'm so nice. I'm a very nice person. Everybody likes me. Whatever. No, none of that is you. Those are just attributes. That you are the attributeless consciousness which illuminates everything. That you are beyond righteousness and unrighteousness. You are beyond dharma and adharma. They don't pertain to you. As long as you think that you are the doer, yes, dharma, adharma affect you. Karma works. As soon as you realize that I never was the doer, the whole thing falls apart. And it was never true. It was only held together by an illusion. So in Vedanta they say that karta eva, it's as if you are the doer. The problem is that in real life, the Sanskrit word eva, as if, is a very serious term. As if. It's as if you are the doer. But that as if is a big term because it causes so much trouble. It causes lifetime after lifetime of misery and suffering. So it is as if. It's not true. It's only a mistake. But it's a big mistake with serious consequences. But once we realize what he's saying here, the whole thing falls apart. That's a strange thing. The whole thing falls apart. So that's what we want to get to. So Sri Ramakrishna continues, from ignorance a man says, this is gold and this is brass. But a man of knowledge says, it is all gold. So I'm not sure what Sri Ramakrishna is referring to here. I don't know if there's a story that this refers to that I'm not presently, I don't remember, I'm not aware of, or what. Or whether it's maybe that it's an example of someone who sees various types of gold ornaments and thinks some are gold and some because it's less pure gold, they think that it's brass. But actually all of it is gold. I don't know. But anyway, the idea is that a man sees something and says this is gold and this is brass, but the person of knowledge says no, it's all gold. So whatever the source of that saying is. But of course the point is clear that the knower of God sees that everything is God. The knower of the self sees that everything is the self. There's no diversity here whatsoever. The Katha Upanishad, Yamaraja, the Lord of Death who teaches the Katha Upanishad, says to Nachiketa, Neha nanasti kinchana. There is no diversity here whatsoever. But what do we see? We see nothing but diversity. We see nothing but diversity. Everything is diverse. Everything can be analyzed into smaller and smaller diverse bits. We see nothing but diversity. But Yama says to Nachiketa, Neha nanasti na iha nanasti kinchana, nana asti kinchana. There is no nanatva, there is no diversity whatsoever here. There's only the self, only the non-dual, infinite, unchanging, unmodified, unmanifest self. That's all that is here. So that's the intent of this. From ignorance a man says, this is gold and this is brass. But a man of knowledge says, it is all gold. Reasoning stops when one sees God, he continues. But there are instances of people who have realized God and who still continue to reason. Again, there are people who, even after having seen God, chant his name with devotion and sing his glories. So this is important. This is a beautiful statement because it corrects some misunderstandings that some people get from the gospel, where Sri Ramakrishna talks against reasoning. He's talking, he tells like to M, the author of the gospel, the recorder of the gospel, he tells him, please promise me that you won't reason anymore. He didn't say that to Narendra. He said it to Sri Mahendranath Gupta, M as we call him in English, the author of the gospel. He told him, promise me that you will stop reasoning anymore. And he said about himself that all I know is that Mother is and I am. I don't know anything else. I don't care to reason. That, oh Mother, the 6 systems of philosophy couldn't know you. Why should I try? I just want to realize you. I want to realize you. I don't want to understand how you do this and how you do that. I just want to be with you and to realize you. And so that was his attitude. But as he says here, some people, even after the attainment of knowledge, that is, the attainment of spiritual experience, after the attainment of realization, after the attainment of enlightenment, after the attainment of moksha, some continue to reason. That's why we have Shankaracharyas. That's why we have Swami Vivekanandas. That's why we have Madhusudana Saraswatis and the people who wrote the various scriptures on the path of knowledge, those that were written by actual people of knowledge, and not just people that were on the path, which they also have written scriptures, because they continued to reason after the attainment of knowledge. A great soul like Gaudapada, and others like Sri Ramakrishna, after the attainment of realization, they continue chanting the name of God. So after Sri Ramakrishna had attained to the highest Nirvikalpa Samadhi, been immersed in Nirvikalpa Samadhi for 3 days and 3 nights, when he came back, later his guru Totapuri saw him clapping and chanting the names of the Divine Mother. And as you know, he asked him, "What are you doing?" "Making chapatis," because of his clapping. He was making fun of Sri Ramakrishna because here you've attained to Nirvikalpa Samadhi. You've known yourself to be the infinite. And where does all of this deity and names of the Divine Mother and all of that, where does all that nonsense come from? So Sri Ramakrishna, when he returned from Nirvikalpa Samadhi, he saw that the universe and all living beings are the play of the Divine Mother. That in Nirvikalpa Samadhi he was immersed in the infinite non-dual reality, one with the non-dual reality. But when this universe comes back into view, even after realization, then when you have universe, when you have living beings, then you also have Ishvara, you also have God. And so Sri Ramakrishna saw that in experience. He saw that everything was God, but he still saw that while he knew that his jivatva, his individuality, was an illusion, that he was the infinite. But when he came back into and was functioning through the body, then he saw that everything comes along with it, but now from the standpoint of knowledge, where now he's no longer fooled. Now he knows the truth, the infinite truth, but he still sings the names of the Divine Mother. And so Sri Ramakrishna used to say that after the attainment of the highest knowledge, then it's good to come back and re-establish a loving relationship with God. But that is done not as we do it. It's done from the standpoint of knowledge, from one who knows the non-dual truth. So, again, what he's saying here is that there are those who have realized God who continue to reason afterwards because that was their nature. And when they come back, now they know the highest truth. They know that which is beyond speech and mind, which is beyond logic and reasoning. And yet, to express it to others, their way of expressing it to others is to use logic and reasoning to explain it to the ordinary mind. Whereas a person like Sri Ramakrishna, though he could use logic also, as he's using here, but he tended, when he came back, to express it in terms of devotion, again to explain it to the ordinary mind. Sri Ramakrishna continues, "How long does a child cry? So long as it is not sucking at its mother's breast. As soon as it is nursed, it stops crying. Then the child feels only joy. Joyously it drinks the milk from its mother's breast. But it is also true that while drinking, the child sometimes plays and laughs." And so the child is crying. That's analogous to us who are seeking God. But then when the mother takes the child, embraces the child and gives it to nurse at her breast, then the child is completely satisfied, just in nursing. It joyously nurses. It needs nothing else. It's completely satisfied. So that is analogous to the person who has attained to the realization of God. When we realize God, then we will, when that blessed day comes to us, then we will just be immersed in the bliss of God. We need nothing else. Never, ever need anything else. Our needs are satisfied forever. Forever. Misery has stopped forever. Joy is attained forever. Undying, undiminishing joy is attained forever. But he says, but it is also true that while drinking, the child sometimes plays and laughs. So that is an analogy of the saint who has realized God, but who, when coming back into the manifestation, now they have full knowledge and they're no longer fooled. They know the truth and they know that which is false. But they sometimes sing and dance and laugh in joy, like the child who is eternal, of course not actually eternally, but in the analogy, as if eternally satisfied at the mother's breast. It has no problems. All of its misery is gone. And yet sometimes even while nursing it laughs and plays, still while nursing. And so the saints do that also. So he continues, it is God alone who has become everything, but in man he manifests himself the most. God is directly present in the man who has the pure heart of a child and who laughs and cries and dances and sings in divine ecstasy. So beautiful. So it is God alone who has become everything. Everything here is God. Everything is a manifestation of the divine. We see everything as separate from God. We see everything but God. We see everything separated from God, and we don't see God, just things. But God is the reality of everything. It's God who has become everything here. So the man of knowledge sees that everything is God. But he says, in man he manifests himself the most. So of all of the things that God manifests in, it's in human beings that God is most manifested, because it's in the human form that God can be realized. It's in the human form that there's at least as far as we know, at least as far as we experience as human beings, there's the highest manifestation of consciousness, the fully functioning buddhi, which can be purified and which can realize God. As far as we know, animals don't follow spiritual practice and realize God. It's said that it's significant that it's humans alone who look up, who we look out and look up. Other animals, their eyes are looking out this way. Even the birds that fly in the sky, they're looking down. They're not looking up, dreaming at the sky. They're looking down at this. And so humanity has, the human being has the capacity to look up, and to look up spiritually also, to look to the highest reality, to not be consumed with earthly concerns. Yes, most people are. That's what most people are consumed with, but they don't need to be. We can all wake up and see that I don't need to be obsessed with this. There is this great ocean of wisdom and love and joy, which is accessible to me and which I can realize if I only strive for it. So then let me not be overly concerned with all of this. Yes, I have to deal with the daily problems. I have to deal with daily life. But let that not obsess my mind and occupy the whole of my mind. Let me do what I need to do to get through life, but let my heart not be here. Let my heart be somewhere else, not anywhere else, in the search for the divine. So then he manifests himself the most in the human beings. God is directly present in the man who has the pure heart of a child, and who laughs and cries and dances and sings in divine ecstasy. So that Sri Ramakrishna liked very much. Sri Ramakrishna always praised simplicity, guilelessness, straightforwardness. That he loved. People like Koka Maharaj, Swami Subodhananda, who had the nature of a child, Swami Brahmananda Rakal, who had the nature of a child. Sri Ramakrishna loved those who had a simple childlike nature, those who were uncomplicated, those who were open and free, and those who could freely sing and dance and laugh in the name of God, and cry in the name of God. So then M continues the narration. By this time, Sri Ramakrishna had become better acquainted with Adhar, who related the cause of his friend's grief. The master sang as if to himself. Just a moment. Now this, let me say, that what we read previously last time, it said that Adhar, a devotee who had come to Sri Ramakrishna once before, had come again with a friend of his. He had brought a friend who, it said, Adhar Sen arrived with several friends. This is from last week's part, on the top of page 208. He was a deputy magistrate, which in those days of the British Raj, even now, that's a high position, about 30 years old, so he was a young man. This was his second visit to the master, Adhar. He was accompanied by his friend Sharada Charan, who was extremely unhappy because of the death of his eldest son. He was a retired deputy inspector of schools, and he devoted himself to meditation and prayer. So Adhar had brought this friend of his who had just lost his eldest son in order to bring him consolation by seeing the great saint Sri Ramakrishna. So by this time, Sri Ramakrishna, coming back to where we were, by this time Sri Ramakrishna had become better acquainted with Adhar, who related the cause of his friend's grief. That is, he had recently lost his eldest son. The master sang as if to himself, to arms, O man! Death storms your house in battle array. Bearing the quiver of knowledge, mount the chariot of devotion. Bend the bow of your tongue with the bowstring of love, and aim at him the shaft of Mother Kali's holy name. Here is a ruse for the fray. You need no chariot or charioteer in this battle. Fight your foe from the Ganges bank, and he is easily slain. So that is, go to the bank of the Ganga, the holy bank of the Ganga, to chant the name of Mother Kali, which is your greatest weapon against delusion and against grief. So to arms, O man! Death storms your house in battle array. Yes, death comes to your house, but you must stand up, chant the name of Kali, chant the name of God. Go to the bank of the Ganges, the holy bank of the Ganges, with all of the holy associations for millennia in Indian civilization, and take advantage of all of those millennia of associations. And there fight the battle with death, who has visited you. So a beautiful song. And here and in some other places, Sri Ramakrishna, when counseling someone who is stricken by grief, he would rouse this heroic mood in them. Sometimes he would weep with them, and here in a moment he will express great sorrow for the man. But he often would also do this, would arouse the person with an appeal to a heroic virtue. Because when one is overcome by grief, then for many people what they need is to be roused to heroic virtue, so that they can face down the grief and not be overwhelmed by it. So yes, we have to, when it's natural for us to grieve, as Sri Ramakrishna will say shortly, it's natural to grieve. But we shouldn't allow grief to overcome us, to overtake us, and to swamp us, because it's easy to be completely overcome by it. And so he would rouse people to heroic virtue. So then Sri Ramakrishna said, what can you do? Be ready for death. Death has entered the house. You must fight him with the weapon of God's holy name. Again, continuing the theme of the song he had just sung. God alone is the doer. I say, O Lord, I do as thou doest through me. I do as thou doest through me. Thou art the doer. I speak as thou speakest through me. I am the machine and thou art the operator. Ami jantro tu mi jantri. I am the machine, you are the operator. This is referring to Ram Prasad's famous song, Sokoli Tomari Icha. Everything is your Icha, O Icha Moy, O willful one. Everything is your will. People say, I do, but it is you who do everything. So I am the machine and thou art the operator. I am the house and thou art the indweller. Ami ghor tu mi ghoroni. I am the house and you are the indweller. I am the engine and thou art the engineer. Give your power of attorney to God. One doesn't come to grief through letting a good man assume one's responsibilities. Let his will be done. Yes, one doesn't come to grief by giving one's responsibilities to a good man, a trustworthy man. And who is better, who is more trustworthy than God? No one. And so if we give our responsibility to God, there's no one better, possibly better, for us to give our selves to, our responsibility to. So let us surrender our responsibility to God. Surrender the sense of doership to God. You are the doer, I'm only the instrument. So yes, we still find that we have to do the things in everyday life. We still have to carry out our duties. But not with the sense that I am doing them. I'm doing them only as an instrument of God's will. Let me do as I am directed by God. So in the beginning, that's only imaginary. We're only pretending that we're doing according to the will of God. But as we do it, the imagination gradually becomes more and more real. And then we begin to feel that no, everything is coming together by some mysterious force. And then we begin to feel that that mysterious force is nothing other than the divine being itself. That all of the circumstances in life, this incredibly complex web of life, where everything is interrelated and affecting everything else, that is happening through the power of the divine being. It is the divine being which is causing all of this to happen in this infinite intricacy. So that experience actually comes, and so we begin by practicing it, by thinking, let me surrender to you. I surrender everything to you. You make me do as you will. Let me not do what as I want to do. Let me do as you wish me to do. And so now when I don't hear your voice, I don't see your direction, I don't know what it is you want me to do, I continue to act because I have to. That's the nature of life. I can't wait until I have your vision and you tell me what to do. I act. But I do it with the sense that let this action that I'm doing, let it be according to your will. Let it be according to your will. Let it be according to your will. Let me surrender my sense of agency. You take over. And so we do it as a practice until we begin to get a feeling for it. So then he continues, but isn't your grief for your son only natural? So yes, here he's brought up the idea of heroic virtue. Stand up, don't be overcome. Death has come to your house, now you must chant Mother Kali's name heroically, not to be overcome by death. And he's taught about surrender to God. If you give your responsibility to God, then no grief can come to you, no ill can come to you, because by giving your responsibility to a good person, then bad can't come to you from that. And by giving your responsibility to God, certainly no bad can come to you. But now he says, from the human standpoint, but isn't your grief for your son only natural? The son is one's own self reborn. That one feels. A father, a mother, they feel that. The son is their own self reborn. Lakshmana ran to Ravana when the latter fell dead on the battlefield. Looking at Ravana's body, he found that every one of his bones was full of holes. Thereupon he said to Rama, "O Rama, glory be to your arrows. There is no spot in Ravana's body that they have not pierced." "Brother," replied Rama, "the holes you see in his bones are not from my arrows. Grief for his sons has pierced them through and through. These holes are the marks of his grief. It has penetrated his very bones." And so Ravana, his bones were full of holes from the grief for the death of his sons who had died on battlefield in his own cause. And so I've heard many people say, people who have had their children pass away, even their grown children, that the worst thing for a parent is for one of their children to die before they do. There's something that feels unnatural about it. And so it's a terrible experience for a parent to have their child die before they die. Even if the parent is 90 and the child is 65, it doesn't matter. Still, it's a terrible grief to a parent. And so here Sri Ramakrishna is recognizing that. So Sri Ramakrishna was not the type of sadhu who, the dried up type of sadhu who had no human sympathy. No, he knew the difficulties of human life, and he knew the difficulties of ordinary people. And so here he says that, no, it's only natural that you feel grief. So yes, when we lose someone and we feel grief, that also is part of the process. Yes, not to be completely overcome by grief, to maintain our dignity, to chant the name of God, to surrender to God, but also to recognize that, yes, I do grieve for my loved one who has passed away. We should also know that the grief is not for the person. The grief is for me who no longer has their company. The grief is for me who felt there were so many things I wanted to do for them, so many things I wanted to tell them that I never got a chance to tell. Things I wanted to ask them I never got a chance to ask. And so that is the source of grief. The person has gone on. For them there's no sorrow. Yes, in the leading up to death maybe a person suffers, but once they're gone, that is gone. Just as when you wake up from a dream, the sorrows of the dream are gone when you wake up. And the dream, maybe all kinds of horrible things are happening, but you wake up and you think, oh, thank God, it was just a dream. It's gone, gone, completely gone. I'm safe. And so the person who wakes up from this life, there's nothing to feel sorry for them. But the sorrow is for us, and so that we can recognize that, yes, I miss so-and-so. I miss having the chance to talk to them. Things I wanted to share with them. Things I wanted to tell them. Things I never got to tell them. So yes, that is natural, and Sri Ramakrishna recognizes it. But house, wife, and children are all transitory. They have only a momentary existence. The palm tree alone is real. One or two fruits have dropped off. Why lament? So the palm tree representing the reality of the universe. That this in the Gita, in the 15th chapter, Sri Krishna says, compares this tree to the cosmic Ashwatha tree. Urdhvamula madhashakam ashwattam prahuravyayam. So this was known from ancient times as the Ashwatha tree, this universe compared to that. And so a few fruits have fallen off. What of that? The tree remains. And so the tree of reality, it continues, and a few fruits have fallen. Life itself is transitory, and so we have to drive that into our minds. We have to have that as part of our background awareness, always there as part of our very way of understanding human life, that this life is transitory. Everything within it is transitory, every experience is transitory, and this body and the bodies of my loved ones, those also are transitory. They're going to die someday or another. At the best, one lives into a ripe old age. At the worst, one dies young. But when one dies, it's all the same. Whether one dies old or young, for the person who has passed away, that dream has gone, and now another dream comes. So we think, oh, so-and-so didn't live to see such and such, they died too young. That's from our standpoint, not from the person who has passed away. No, they haven't missed out on anything. They have come into a new life and a new vision and don't even remember the past. And so again, grieving is not for the one who is gone. Grieving is for us. And to always remember that this life is transitory. God is engaged in three kinds of activity: creation, preservation, and destruction. Death is inevitable. All will be destroyed at the time of dissolution. Nothing will remain, nothing. At the time the Divine Mother will gather up the seeds for the future creation, even as the elderly mistress of the house keeps in her hotchpotch pot little bags of cucumber seeds, sea foam, blue pills, and other miscellaneous things. The Divine Mother will take her seeds out again at the time of the new creation. So I've often wondered what these blue pills are that the woman, mistress of the house, keeps in her hotchpotch pot to save for the new creation. So I don't know at that time what little blue pills people had in their hotchpotch pot. But there must have been some familiar medication that people had then. So anyway, the idea is that when creation ends, when everything is withdrawn into pralaya, then nothing remains. Just as the universe enters pralaya at the end of long eons of time, billions of years, the universe enters into pralaya, everything disappears, so individually, that's on the cosmic scale, but individually we each have pralaya at the time of death, when all of this disappears. All of our loved ones disappear. All of our prized possessions disappear. Our favorite things disappear. Our favorite activities disappear. Everything disappears. And so let us practice that consciousness to know that everything here is transitory. Nothing endures, nothing endures, nothing endures, except for God and the soul. And so let us seek that and make our way through this life, through the vicissitudes of life, through the joys and the sorrows, through the laughter and the tears, the good times and the bad times, the successes and the failures, the high points and the low points, making our way through all of that with our mind fixed on the goal. And yes, that is hard, because all of this is so engaging, and it's constantly pulling our minds into it. So we have to make an effort day by day, year after year, decade after decade, to keep pulling our mind back and reminding ourselves, no, that's where I want to go, because that alone endures. That alone lasts. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else. At the moment of death, I'll realize that everything I have invested myself in is coming to naught. That doesn't mean that there's no use for love and use for care and use for compassion. Yes, all of those things are good, but they're good because they expand our heart, not because our acts of compassion, not because our personal love for a particular person is going to last. No, it will not. That also disappears with death. But to love is good because that awakens the heart. To be compassionate is good because that reduces the egotism, that reduces our attachment to our own little joys and sorrows, makes us expand ourselves. So those are good, but they're good because of their effect on us. And if others get benefit, well and good. But what we know is that it's because of the expansion of the mind and heart that they are good. So we'll stop here. Let's see, let me get my place. Yes, here we are. On Sunday, we will have the lecture in the series small Vedantic texts, a series that I started long back, and then there was a long break of many months where I wasn't doing it. I started it up again, and so this coming Sunday I will speak on Drigdrishya Viveka, the discrimination between the seer and the seen, the perceiver and the perceived, the subject and the object. A famous text in Vedanta, and that teaches a very wonderful practice. And so this will be a two-part series. This coming Sunday I will speak on the main thrust and the main intent of the text, and the following Sunday it will be an independent lecture but on the same text with other elements, other ideas from the text. Its interpretation of Maya and its interpretation of the individual jiva, the self. And so that will be at 11 o'clock. And next week we will have the classes as usual. We'll have the Tuesday Bhagavad Gita class at 7:30 p.m. and this Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna class, as always, Thursday morning at 11 o'clock, live streamed for now. And this live streaming of our programs will continue at least until September. August, as always, we will be closed for a month as far as programs go. But until August, we will have only live-streamed programs. We won't have any meetings here because of the current pandemic. And then by September, we will have a better view of how the fall is looking, the autumn is looking, from the standpoint of the pandemic and social distancing and so forth. And then we'll make a decision whether to start having meetings here again or whether to continue just with live streaming. The live streaming will continue anyway, but whether the question will be whether to allow people also to come and sit as an audience here gathered in the temple, or whether we will continue with only live streamed programs. So that will be decided by September, and on an ongoing basis, depending on how the pandemic continues its course. I just read the other day in an email from a Buddhist acquaintance that his Zen Buddhist teacher used to say that our schedule has to, our schedule has to adapt to reality. That is, that we may have a schedule of what we're going to do, but reality may dictate something else. So we always have to be nimble-footed, ready to adapt to reality. So that's what we're doing. So let me give a closing chant, and then that will be the end of our class tonight. Again, today. You will be seeing it on Thursday morning. I'm recording it on Tuesday night, and so that's why I said tonight. But again, I wish everyone well, and end with a prayer to Sri Ramakrishna. Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhrita Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namamaha. Now, no one else is here, so I can't have an elegant ending. Well, we'll have to go and turn off the camera myself. So, good day to everyone.